Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mikey. You guys are rocking with me on Mikey's Intellectual Corner. On today's episode, I thought we were going ahead and do a reaction to a clip on a movie, They Shall Not Grow Old. So if you guys don't know about this movie, pretty much, essentially, it's an hour and some change of all World War I clips, like all the clips or footage that you've ever seen that's like actual real footage of World War I, and like that's the black and white stuff like that. Peter Jackson and his team went to a whole bunch of museums, and they looked up a whole bunch of World War I vets, and they actually talked to them, and they got the recordings, and they're talking and stuff. So throughout the entire movie, you hear the World War I vets talking about what's happening and stuff like that, and they're matching it up to the footage and stuff. But they were able to colorize it and smooth it out like super, like how black and white footage is kind of jerky and stuff. They're able to smooth it out like tremendously. And without further ado, though, I'm gonna stop talking because I know I sound kind of goofy, but let's go ahead and get right into it. So let's go.
And the ground shook. And we could see the hundreds and hundreds of gun flashes. As soon as the bombardment started, the Germans' retaliation came.
Yeah, you can tell back then too their knowledge because obviously cannons have been around for a super long time. We can tell their knowledge on the huge big guns that they just started making were a little bit off, because their accuracy obviously was a little bit off. Because I can tell you right now, a gun crew now, after they shoot, we have to move, because he just said the Germans just started, the retaliation was immediate. Well, that retaliation is going right on that gun line immediately, so you have to move around and stuff like that. So that's how you can tell the accuracy was just a little off, you know what I'm saying, back then.
And for 4 hours we had to sit there and take everything he slung at us.
And first of all, a large number of tanks went in. We could hear them rumbling and rattling.
320 tanks crawling along.
We waited for the signal to move off. Already, everybody was anxious to go, but we waited and waited.
We got no sleep at all that night, owing to the noise of our artillery barrage, which was continuous the whole time.
We was asked to hand over any personal belongings to our company officer, such as photographs and letters that we valued.
I heard...
Yeah, I've been so scared hearing that from my commanding officer, just, you know what I'm saying, because just knowing the death tolls that have been, you know what I'm saying, presented through it early on in the war. I mean, I want to say just a year into it, from 1914, 1915, I think Austro-Hungarian Empire already lost 2 million lives, you know what I'm saying? So just hearing that, you already know, like, I mean, my life is pretty much, you know what I'm saying, up for grabs in this war, so my heart would have sunk into my ass hearing that.
I heard soft voices talking to one another quietly, and I wondered how many are going to live to see the sun rise.
In a man's playbook, there was provision for making a valid will if they were going into action for the first time, but I didn't bother with it. I had nothing to leave anybody.
The fellow next to you, he was your best friend. You looked at him. You probably didn't know him the day before. And then, an hour to go, they were the longest and the shortest hours in life.
We had unlimited time for thinking, and I know I found myself thinking much more deeply than I had ever thought before.
Some people might be incapable of thinking. They might have regarded the situation as being such because they were incapable of thought.
I don't think there was any feeling of fear. It was just that, we were doing a job, and if it came, it came.
We realized that sooner or later we were going to get the chop. You were either going to be killed or wounded.
I was not in the least frightened of being killed, but I was terrified lest I should lose an arm or...
Yeah, I feel like a lot of different, whenever you go into, especially, I'm sure that feeling was huge back then, because, you know what I'm saying, war was so much more brutal back then. But I feel like a lot of people, especially in combat arms, have to have that kind of mentality, and a whole bunch of different jobs, really. You just have to have that mentality of, whenever it's my time to go, it's my time to go. And this stuff has been predestined since the beginning of time. There's nothing you can do, you know what I'm saying? So just go out there and get it done. And if you survive, you have an amazing story to tell. That's how I look at it. And, you know, obviously I have some amazing stories to tell, so. But yeah.
Frightened of being killed, but I was terrified lest I should lose an arm or a leg.
Waiting for an hour for an attack is not a very pleasant thing. We'd sort of chattered away, trying to keep the spirits up, you see. We told dirty stories and made crude remarks.
We had 1,000 guns massed on a mile front behind us. Well, you imagine all this stuff coming over you, and we had the German stuff coming the other way.
The noise rose to a crescendo such as I'd never heard before.
You wouldn't hear any word.
The shells were passing over you probably 3 foot, 4 foot, and the air was an inferno, and your mind was another inferno. Reason was completely blasted out of it.
The bombardment created a sort of hysterical feeling.
All of a sudden, one of our fellows started crying, really screaming and crying. And the officer in charge telling the sergeant, find that man and shoot him, shoot him.
It's difficult to explain the reaction of a man when he is in a big bombardment.
He thought that this man's screaming and crying.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, obviously, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking to themselves, you know, how can you do that to your own man? You know, obviously in war and stuff like that, you got to have all the manpower you want and all that stuff. You know, you don't want to help the enemy by killing your own men, but you also have to understand these men are about to go over top of the burm, and in World War I, that's literally, in my opinion, probably the most dangerous thing that anyone will do in this war is go over the top of that burm into no man's land, because there's no guarantee. They don't have body armor. The only piece of hard armor they have is on top of their head, and that's newly constructed. That's an experiment, you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where you can't have somebody doing that and then that just spreads out through your entire formation, and then now nobody wants to go over top. You know what I'm saying? Like, that has to be a real spur of the moment feeling to have to be able to gather that courage up to know I'm about to die, so let's go get it done. Nobody wants to die, you know? So I understand why that happened.
This man's screaming and crying would be a danger to the rest of the men.
As soon as it was light, we were given a ration of rum, and the amount of it as much as you could drink.
And we've got the order to fix bayonets.
It was a beautiful day, the way it dawned after a rainy night. A beautiful day.
Then 5 minutes ago, I remember those lads standing there, dead silent, couldn't make a noise.
I was more frightened sitting waiting to start. I was very frightened then, very frightened indeed.
And an officer shouted along the line, is everybody ready? And I called out, I can't get my bayonet on my rifle, sir. And he said, damn you, mate, well, hurry up.
I sent back a message to brigade headquarters to say we were all ready.
But unfortunately, a slight mistake occurred.
The first thing we knew was terrific tremor of the ground.
We blew a mine, which should have been under the German trenches, but wasn't. It was in no man's.
That's insane. Because you guys gotta remember, this isn't computer generated. This isn't movie effects. That explosion right there really happened. That's a crater. You know what I'm saying? Whenever we hear about World War I and stuff like that, you always hear, you know, this huge crater was created and the men rushed into it and occupied it. That's one of these craters that we're seeing. That stuff is insane. That probably would have felt like a movie, sitting there watching that happen, thinking to yourself, okay, well, here comes the bullets and stuff.
It was in no man's land. And that gave the Germans 5 minutes to occupy the crater, which they did. Sergeant Moore, he was standing behind the trench. He got a revolver in his hand, and he said, anybody goes back, I'll shoot him. So that if we didn't go one way, we wouldn't go the other.
There wasn't a reluctance to go over the top, not with people I were with.
They put a curtain of shells over you, and you advance. That was the theory of the thing.
I realized that this was the moment of the assault.
And then zero.
You know how scary that would have been to think to yourself, okay, we're about to go over top, but I know that we're not going until at least I know that we start seeing those shells go over top of our head. That's our signal to start going. And then, like, you know what I'm saying, you're seeing all that stuff going on in the distance, and you just start seeing that pop overhead, and you're like, oh, fuck. Here it is, all right, let's go. That's time. Scary.
Moment of the assault.
And then 0 hour.
Somebody shouted, "There they go!" And to the left were the London Scottish running forward.
I gave the order up the ladders, over the top.
And after this, we lived in a world of noise, simply noise, for hours.
Absolutely incredible. We'll definitely be doing some more of these. You know what I'm saying? Because you gotta think that's real World War I footage. Like, that's what they look like. It felt like we were there with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can tell. Like, whenever he said it was a beautiful day, it just rained the day before. You can see the sun shining and stuff. It looked like a pretty day. And I think that, you know what I'm saying, it kind of helps you submerge yourself into it, like thinking yourself, you probably feel the sun heating up the back of your neck and stuff like that, and you feel the wind, but all you hear is noise and explosions and everything else, so it's just really scary. But, alright, without further ado, guys, thank you again for joining me in another episode of Mike's Intellectual Corner. I'll see you guys on another one. I'm out.